They told you excellence requires perfection. They lied. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is polishing a presentation for the 100th time. Adjusting fonts, tweaking colors, making sure every pixel aligns. They think they're working. They're not. They're hiding. And the thing they're hiding from, it's not failure, it's success. Let me show you what's really happening. Perfectionism isn't what you think it is. It's not about quality. It's not about standards. It's about fear wearing a respectable mask. When you spend 3 hours choosing the perfect shade of blue for your slide deck, you're not being thorough. You're procrastinating with permission. You're creating the illusion of productivity while avoiding the one thing that actually matters. Putting your idea into the world where it can be judged. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Behind every perfectly formatted document, every meticulously crafted pitch deck, every flawlessly designed website that never launches, there's someone terrified of being criticized. So they polish, and polish, and polish, until the deadline passes, until the opportunity dies, until someone else with a messier version and more courage takes what should have been theirs. Think about that for a second. Winston Churchill understood something most people never learn. During World War II, while the fate of civilization hung in the balance, he had a rule for his generals. 1 page, that's it. He didn't want elaborate reports with perfect formatting. He didn't want color-coded charts and lengthy introductions. He wanted the truth, written in whatever form it came. Pencil on a napkin? Fine. Scrawled notes on the back of an envelope? Perfect, as long as it arrived on time. Churchill said it directly. Perfection is the enemy of progress. He wasn't talking about lowering standards. He was talking about understanding what actually matters. During the Battle of Britain, when German bombs were falling on London every night, there wasn't time for perfect intelligence reports. There was time for actionable information. Fast decisions, imperfect action that moved the needle forward. You know what Churchill cared about? Results. Not presentations, not aesthetics. Results. Here's where it gets interesting. Psychologist Brené Brown spent years studying perfectionism. She calls it a 20-ton shield. Picture that. You're walking through life dragging this massive shield, convinced it's protecting you. From what? From criticism, from judgment, from people seeing that you're not flawless. But here's what's actually happening. That shield isn't protecting you, it's crushing you. Brown's research shows something disturbing. Perfectionists don't perform better than non-perfectionists. They perform worse. They're more anxious, more depressed, more likely to procrastinate. Because they've convinced themselves that if they can just make it perfect enough, no one will be able to criticize them. If they can just get every detail right, they'll be safe. But you're never safe, and perfect doesn't exist. While you're polishing your shield, someone else is in the arena. Getting bloodied, getting feedback, getting better. They launched their messy beta version 6 months ago. It had bugs. The interface was clunky. Users complained. And you know what happened? They fixed it. They improved it. They captured the market while you were still choosing fonts. This isn't theory. This is documented in every industry. Reid Hoffman founded LinkedIn. Before that, he was at PayPal during the dot-com boom. He watched companies rise and fall, and he noticed a pattern. The companies that won weren't the ones with the most polished product at launch. They were the ones that launched first, learned fast, and iterated constantly. Hoffman has a famous quote, "If you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late." Read that again. You should be embarrassed. Your first version should make you cringe a little. Because if it doesn't, it means you waited too long. You polished when you should have been learning. You perfected when you should have been testing. Silicon Valley runs on this principle. They call it done is better than perfect. It's not about celebrating mediocrity. It's about understanding that real-world feedback beats internal perfectionism every single time. Look at Facebook. When it launched, it was a mess. Limited features, buggy code, crashes. It only worked at a few universities. But Mark Zuckerberg didn't wait until he had the perfect global platform. He launched what he had. Then he watched what people actually did with it. Then he built based on real behavior, not perfect planning. Google's first homepage was embarrassingly simple. Amazon's first website looked like it was designed by someone who'd never seen good design. Apple's first iPhone didn't have copy-paste. These weren't accidents. These were choices. Launch with core value, then improve. But here's what they don't want you connecting. This isn't just business advice. This is a fundamental truth about how reality actually works. The universe doesn't reward perfect plans. It rewards action, momentum, course correction. Think about evolution. Nature doesn't wait for the perfect organism. It tries stuff. Most mutations fail. Some succeed. The ones that succeed reproduce. That's it. That's the algorithm. Iteration beats perfection every single time across billions of years. Your brain doesn't understand this. Your brain evolved in an environment where one mistake could kill you. Touch the wrong plant, you die. Misread a predator's behavior, you die. So your brain became obsessed with getting things right the first time. But you're not dodging predators anymore. You're creating presentations. And your ancient survival circuitry is treating your quarterly report like a life or death situation. It's not. Here's the hidden cost of perfectionism that nobody talks about. Every hour you spend polishing is an hour. You're not spending learning. When you finally release your perfect product, you get feedback once. When you release an imperfect product early, you get feedback continuously. You get to see what actually works instead of what you think should work. The perfectionist makes one big bet. The pragmatist makes 100 small bets and sees which ones pay off. Who do you think learns faster? Let me tell you about Toyota. After World War II, they were broke. Couldn't afford massive factories or perfect manufacturing systems like American companies had. So they developed something different. Kaizen. Continuous improvement. The idea that you don't need a perfect system. You need a system that gets 1% better every day. They didn't wait until they could build the perfect car. They built cars. Imperfect ones. Then they improved them. Then they improved them again. Today, Toyota is one of the most reliable car brands on Earth. Not because they started perfect. Because they started and never stopped improving. This is the paradox. The path to excellence runs through imperfection. You want quality? You have to be willing to produce crap first. You want mastery? You have to be willing to be a beginner. You want your work to matter? You have to be willing to put work into the world before it's ready. Now, here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. That brilliant idea in your head? The one you've been refining for months? It's worthless, not because it's bad, because it's still in your head. Ideas don't change the world. Executed ideas change the world. Even badly executed ideas in the real world are worth more than perfectly conceived ideas that stay internal. Churchill understood this on a cellular level. He wrote a memo during the war. It's famous in management circles now. It said, the maxim, nothing avails but perfection, may be spelt shorter, paralysis. Paralysis. That's what perfectionism really is. It's not a virtue. It's a form of paralysis that feels productive because you're busy. But busy doesn't equal effective. Here's what actually matters. Value. Does your work provide value to someone? Then ship it. Is your presentation good enough to communicate the core idea? Then present it. Is your product functional enough to solve the main problem? Then launch it. Everything else is decoration, and decoration can come later. You know what's more valuable than a perfect presentation? A rough presentation delivered to the right person at the right time. You know what's more valuable than a flawless business plan? A scrappy business that exists. Brené Brown found something else in her research. The opposite of perfectionism isn't sloppiness. It's wholeness. It's showing up as you are, with what you have, and trusting that's enough. Not because you're settling for less, because you understand that perfection is a moving target that you'll chase forever. The perfectionist never finishes. There's always one more thing to fix, one more detail to adjust, one more revision to make. Meanwhile, the world moves on without them. Let me show you how this plays out. Imagine two people with the same idea. Person A spends 6 months perfecting their pitch deck. Every slide is beautiful. Every transition is smooth. Every data point is verified 3 times. Person B spends 1 week making a rough deck and then spends 5.5 months actually pitching it, getting rejected, getting feedback, refining their approach. Who do you think closes the deal? Person B has pitched to 50 people. They've heard every objection. They know what resonates and what doesn't. They've adapted their message to actual human reactions. Person A has a gorgeous deck that's been seen by exactly 0 people outside their head. This is happening right now in every field. While you're waiting to be ready, someone less qualified but more courageous is taking your opportunity. Not because they're better, because they moved. Here's the secret. Excellence is a direction, not a destination. You don't achieve it and stop. You move toward it continuously. And the only way to move toward it is to start from where you are, which is never perfect. The most successful people aren't the most talented. They're the most willing to look stupid, to release work before it's ready, to iterate in public, to learn from real failure instead of hypothetical perfection. Steve Jobs is famous for his obsession with quality. But you know what his actual operating principle was? Real artists ship, not real artists perfect. Ship, get it out the door, into people's hands, where it can be used and improved. Your magnum opus that never gets released helps exactly 0 people. Your rough draft that gets published might change someone's life. Think about that. The writers you admire? Their first drafts were garbage. The entrepreneurs you follow? Their first businesses failed. The artists whose work moves you? Their early pieces were embarrassing. The difference between them and everyone else isn't talent. It's willingness to suck in public long enough to get good. Here's what they don't tell you in school. Quality comes from quantity. You get good by doing a lot of bad work. There's no shortcut. You can't think your way to excellence. You have to work your way there, through all the imperfect attempts. And every moment you spend polishing instead of producing is a moment you're not getting better. So what does this mean for you? Stop using quality as an excuse for inaction. Stop hiding behind just one more revision. Stop pretending that perfectionism is professionalism. It's not. Professionalism is delivering value on time, even if that value isn't wrapped in a perfect package. That project you've been sitting on, the one that's 95% done but you can't quite finish, ship it tomorrow, not when it's perfect. Tomorrow, it will never be perfect. And the gap between 95% and 100% has killed more dreams than any failure ever could. Churchill had another line. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Notice what's missing from that quote. Perfection. He didn't say success is avoiding failure. He said it's moving through failure. Momentum beats precision. Your messy action beats someone else's perfect inaction every single time. Here's the truth they don't want you to see. The system wants you stuck in perfectionism. Because perfect people don't disrupt anything. They're too busy polishing. The people who change things? They're the ones willing to be wrong loudly enough that everyone notices. Then they course correct and keep moving. A genius idea scrawled on toilet paper is worth infinitely more than a mediocre idea in a gold frame. Stop decorating the frame. Focus on the idea. Get it out. Let it breathe. Let it fail. Let it teach you what it needs to become. Better an imperfect action today than a perfect plan that never happens. This isn't a bug in how the world works. It's a feature. One you weren't supposed to notice. The successful people already know. They understood that done beats perfect years ago. That's why they're ahead. Now you know too. You can't unknow it. And that changes everything. The question is, what are you going to do with work that's good enough to matter but not perfect enough to hide behind? Ship it.